I'm Staci,
And I'm Melissa.
and welcome to the Digestible Podcast, where we give you the health and wellness information you need in an amount of time you can handle in your busy day. And we make it easily digestible. Get it?
So, Staci, we want to jump into this episode because this one is for everyone. This is for you. This is for your friends. This is for your spouse. This is for your kids. This is for
Your
young
parents.
adults. I mean, you name it. Because we're talking today about protein. And it's not just about building muscle. It's about living healthy. And so today we interviewed Andrew Phelka. Andrew's a fitness consultant. Imagine a professional trainer and an expert sports nutritionist and a personal coach. He's amazing, and he explains things so well. He came to the University of Michigan and studied biochemistry, originally out of a passion for enhancing sports performance. After college, he went to Africa for nearly 3 years as a high school teacher in the Peace Corps. After hitchhiking around the world for 6 months, he returned to the University of Michigan to get his master's in human nutrition at the School of Public Health. And since then, he's been in private practice for 23 years, working with people ages 10 to 97, as well as NFL, NCAA, Olympic, and bodybuilding athletes. So he hopes to give us some tools to help us interpret the vast amount of information, often contradictory and confusing, about nutrition and exercise for our own health and practice. If you haven't already shared an episode of Digestible, you're going to want to share this one because this one applies to everyone and he explains things so beautifully.
And if you care about the way you are aging and the way everyone around you is aging and their health, they will want to hear this information straight from the horse's mouth. Not calling Andrew a horse. Sorry, Andrew.
He doesn't mind because he's healthy as a
horse.
Oh, geez. Enjoy this episode.
So much for our short intro.
Hey, Andrew, welcome to the podcast. This is so fun. Andrew has been my husband and my personal trainer for, you've been working with Jeff for 15 years?
Yeah, it's about 15 years.
Yeah, and I have to say, Andrew's fantastic as a trainer, and he helps us when we have joint issues and pain, and we want to build muscle and strength and endurance and all the things. But in addition to that, what I've really come to look forward to is our conversations, because we totally deep dive. I think you have such an in-depth knowledge of how the human body works and performs, and health, and all of the topics that we like to cover on the show that I think we'll have you back again. But today, we'd like to focus on something that's been a hot topic, and it's protein. And you've had history of working with athletes and the everyday Joes and Janes like ourselves. And so we're going to talk about protein today, and you're going to help us out.
That sounds great. And I would just like to add to what you began with is I think protein is getting this kind of attention, rightly so, because it is a vital macronutrient, or one of the main things we eat, for many reasons. We're going to get to why, but it is getting attention for good reason. And I hope to make that knowledge available to everyone, as you put it, from the performance athlete to the general population. It's kind of how we put it. The people who aren't concerned with performance, but they, of course, want to be healthy and live longer and feel good.
Excellent. Okay, and that leads us perfectly into question one, which is, why do we need protein? Because it's not just about building muscle, is it?
No, not at all. Building muscle, if you really think about how the body prioritizes what it does, it's going to do that last with protein. So having muscle on your frame is actually very metabolically expensive. It requires a lot of energy, a lot of work, and a lot of maintenance. So your body uses protein for a lot of other things first. Building muscle is, of course, the popular one and kind of the fad one. But what your body uses protein for more than anything else is to build your very structure. So I don't know, if I take you back to high school biology, what is most of your body made of? Do you know? Either one of them.
Water.
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on your age, it's very different for the very young and the very old, but depending on your age, it's anywhere from 60 to 70% water. So if you take out all that water, say more than half your body weight of water, half the remaining, they call it the dry weight of your body. So just remove the water. The dry weight of your body is more than half protein. So you are made up of water and then protein. So all your bones, all your organs, all your enzymes, all your hormones need protein to exist. So the structure of your body is made of protein. The same way a house is made of bricks and lumber, you are made of protein. There are thousands of different kinds, not just nutritional protein, but it builds the structure of what you are. That's the main reason it's very, very important.
Wow,
And so-
that was such a good explanation. I love that.
And another little tidbit, a little bit sciencey, but they've done like radiocarbon stuff to see how often do your cells replace themselves. And really 98% of your body is brand new every 6 months. So you replace almost all of your cells about every 6 months. Certain things take longer, like nerve tissue takes longer. But in 6 months, 98% of your body has completely turned over. And so you are built with what you eat. You are what you eat. You are made of what you consume. And there's no two ways about it. You are just made of what you consume. And so high quality protein builds a high quality structure. Do you want a brain made of Twinkies and hot dogs, or do you want a brain made of, fish, lean meat, nuts, high quality protein? That becomes the concern.
Wow. Like, let that sit for a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you
No,
think
that's
about
right.
it, you think about your hair, your nails, your skin, your bones, all the way down to your hormones and enzymes, they are all made of protein. And so that's why it's important to include good quality protein in your
Okay.
nutrition.
Okay. So proteins are built of amino acids. What are they? And why do we care?
Okay, it's an excellent question. And I think to avoid all science, if you think of a protein as a complex molecule, say like a bracelet made of beads or a necklace made of beads, the necklace or the bracelet is the protein, the beads are the amino acids. The amino acids build the molecule that is the protein. If you say a wall is made of bricks, the wall is the protein, the bricks are the amino acids.
I love that analogy. It makes it easier for all of us to kind of picture what we're talking about.
And there are 20 amino acids. This goes back to my education, but you don't need to know this, but there are 20 of them, and your body can't make 9. So 11 of them your body can produce from almost anything you eat. You can make them from carbohydrates. You can make them from all remaining nutrients circulating in your blood system. But there are 9 of them that you must actually consume those amino acids. And most people don't want to know the names of them or any of that. They just want to solve the problem. So how do I get those essential amino acids becomes part of the subset of why is protein important. So you need to choose your proteins carefully to get the essential ones that might be missing.
So are the essential ones the ones that you need to consume that your body doesn't make?
Yes.
Okay, so the essential ones are the ones you need to have in your diet,
Yes.
and the non-essential are the ones that your body will make on its own regardless.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do different things for your body, which is why we need all of the different amino acids that build
Right.
the protein, right?
Right. People will talk about glutamine when it comes to muscles, or tryptophan when it comes to sleep and getting tired. Everybody knows the Thanksgiving analogy. But yes, they all do different things, and that goes down a deep rabbit hole. But the main thing is make sure there's enough of them. The way we talk about it in the nutrition world is you have to constantly bathe your system in adequate high-quality protein.
Bathe your system in high quality protein.
Because you can't store protein, and hopefully we'll get to this later. Everybody knows we can store fat. Most people understand you can store carbohydrates, like they've heard of carb loading, they might have heard of glycogen, which is stored in your muscles and liver, and a couple other places. But you really can't store protein very effectively, so you need to constantly consume it in the right amount and the right kind.
So for those of us who are more vegetarian leaning,
Mhm.
how do we bathe ourselves in all these proteins? Because we're a little limited.
Well, and that was one of the questions we thought might come up. How does someone who's either plant-based or primarily vegetarian, pescatarian, whatever they might be, make sure they get adequate protein? And if you're completely off of animal protein, that's a pretty complex endeavor. I would want to sit with that individual to help them formulate a plan. If you are pescatarian or lacto-ovo, you're probably going to get enough from the eggs and dairy. But the thing about vegetable sources of protein, because we've been in this plant-based craze for a while now, and that's really just kind of a marketing thing. It isn't super biologically based, it's more consumer based. You can do it, you can find a complicated way of combining your plants and timing your nutrients to get adequate protein. But just kind of by nature, vegetable protein is not real bioavailable. Your body can't extract the protein efficiently. A lot of the protein is caught in insoluble fibers, so your body can't access it. A lot of the protein is in parts of the plant that we don't actually eat. So you might eat the leaf, but not the root. You might eat the root, but not the stem. And in that plant, the protein is elsewhere. So 60 to 70% of plant protein is not absorbed.
Wow.
Interesting. That makes me very sad.
I know that becomes part of the challenge. And they, by nature of what they are, don't contain all the essential amino acids.
What about the protein What about the protein that is in like the chia seeds and the hemp seeds? Is that more bioavailable than the plant protein?
A little bit. And that
Quinoa is supposed to be a complete protein also.
Yeah, a lot of them are relatively complete, but can you extract those amino acids based on how trapped they might be? And trapped is a harsh term, but they are wrapped in insoluble fiber that your body might not be able to digest. And so that brings me to, how do you decide what is a high quality protein? Is vegetable protein even worth eating? I would say, of course, yes, but it gets a score. A lot of people have heard of the glycemic index around carbohydrates, especially diabetics are taught that. Mm-hmm. Now, in protein, there's a lot of debate on how to score protein, but if you want just results, the best one is called biological value. You will hear all kinds of complicated laboratory kind of terms around how you judge protein, but the most useful one is called BV, or biological value. And like anything, it's Googleable and it's everywhere out there.
Seen BV.
Yes.
Okay.
So what is biological value? That is, okay, you say you eat something, say it's a piece of fish. How much of that protein is absorbed and utilized by your tissue? And then how much is excreted? And so it's always a ratio or a percentage out of 100. It's a human invented scale, so they base it on an egg white as being 100. And plants are often under 50, whereas beef and meat and fish are in the 70s to 80s. So you think about it as an efficiency. They're 70 or 80% efficient at being used, whereas plants might be 40, 45, 50% efficient at being absorbed by the human body. So you'd have to eat so much more to absorb what you would get from a denser or higher biological value source.
Okay, I have another question.
Go ahead.
Please.
This is great. These are great questions.
Okay, so when I'm thinking I have to have 100 grams of protein a day, let's say, do I have to count that by the BV score, or can I just count it by the grams? Because if some of it's plant, but it's not being absorbed, can I even count it towards my grams of protein a day?
I think that's a fantastic question, and that becomes a little mini algebra calculator.
Oh, great. Most
people, I would say, just start by getting there. Get to your number, whether it's 70, 80, 100. Just get to your number from a decent source. It's not a scoop of Jif peanut butter and a Milky Way bar and counting those grams of protein. Make sure it's a decent source and count your grams. You're about 80% of the way there if you do that. Then, yes, you can say, okay, this piece of chicken is a BV of 77. So my 20 grams of chicken times 0.77, that's how many I actually absorb. But now you must be really concerned about your performance, or you must have everything else solved if you're down to that detail.
You talk about that a lot, Andrew, because we'll talk about supplements and we're talking about protein, and you'll say, look, start with the basics. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you managing your stress? Are you moving every day? Are you eating relatively well? And if all those things are yes, then we can start talking about, getting the most impactful protein, getting all the right supplements, because it's so important.
They get lost in the minutia, they get lost in the weeds, and they forget the big picture. And you brought it up because I've known you for a long time, is if you really want to get healthier, whether it's lose weight, have more energy, live longer, feel better, it does all start with sleep. And in this order of 4 things, it's sleep first, stress management second, third is nutrition, and last is exercise, because exercise actually adds stress to your body. So you do need to solve some other things first.
So if you're already sleeping, you tell us. I know you've come, we'll come downstairs to work out with you in the mornings, 7 in the morning when we work out. And sometimes one of us has not gotten enough sleep, and you'll say you should go back to sleep because
Sometimes, yeah.
sleeping or exercising when you're sleep deprived can put more stress on your body.
Yes.
Although, what level of sleep deprivation are we talking about? So if it's like, I didn't get a great night's sleep, you could still do it. But if it's like, I got 3 hours of sleep, I was up half the night, but I wanted to show up, I could see you being like, maybe you need to sleep today.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother podcast. But if you really look at the data on sleep, if you're under 6 hours, like legitimately under 6 hours, you really shouldn't exercise.
Okay.
You are going to spike your cortisol, your food signaling, all that is going to be off. You just need rest first.
Okay, tangent. So we're going to come back to the protein because protein's really important for longevity and health and all the things, and even.
I still have some more tangents to go on.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. I have so many questions.
This is great.
Okay. So how do you really determine how many grams of protein a person needs a day? There seems to be so many different calculations out there, and everyone's like, oh, a woman your age, like shoot for 100 grams of protein. But really, like, how do we determine that number?
There are lots and lots and lots of studies on that now, and I've been following it for about 30 years. If you go by the RDA, which is a joke, actually, and most people who study it realize that, that's a 0.8 per kilogram of body weight. I think people need to start with a gram per pound. So let's bring it back to American units. A gram per pound.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, the units. But you, again, back to basic algebra, you need to subtract off your fat mass. We all have fat mass. You have to have some fat mass. It's actually healthy to have fat mass. It protects your organs, the palms of your hands, the bottoms of your feet. You need fat on your body. Fat is not evil. But so you don't need to feed your fat. It will take care of itself. So say you're, for the sake of math, 200 pounds and 20% body fat. So how much of your body is fat? 40 pounds. So you really base your protein calculation on 200 minus 40, which is 160. So feed your lean mass at 1 gram per pound. That would be my short answer.
I like that. I have not heard that.
I haven't either.
And feed your lean mass at 1 gram per pound, and the more active you are and younger you are, the more you need.
The more active and the more young you are, the more you need?
Because your protein synthesis, which is the biological reaction of using it, is revved up. And then it crosses into the older you are, the more systematic you need to be about it. Because you asked that question, and we'll get there. But, yeah.
Okay.
And for the listeners, I'm just going to say it, but biologically, we start aging at 35.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have peaked,
yes.
And I get this from my connections to the athletic world, but you have peaked physically with your physical performance at 28 plus or minus 2.
That's so sad.
Well,
at the same time, like I have more muscle mass, I feel like, on my body than I've ever had.
Sure. So if you never did anything from 20 to 35, and then you start at 35.
Because we had great metabolism, so just did it for us.
Well, right. And that's, you might be lean, but not real strong, or lean, but not a lot of endurance or something like that. But if you're a trained athlete from, say, being a kid, you're going to peak at 28 plus or minus 2 for most people. And so there are visible signs of performance decline, arthritis, all those things starting at 35, which is just kind of a sobering reality. But if you can swallow that, to use a nutrition analogy, you then just shift. You shift from performance to longevity, from performance to preservation of your system, of your lean mass, of your bone density, of your memory, of all those things. So that's what it becomes after 35.
All right. And then I have another question, kind of a follow-up to that. A lot of us are incorporating protein powders to help increase our protein intake, since there's so much to take in on a daily basis. What are your thoughts on that? Sometimes I'm very happy to have my protein powder in the morning, and sometimes I'm like, why do I have to scoop a powder every morning? I just want to just eat the food.
And I would say always start with the food first. In the true meaning of the word supplement, a protein supplement is a supplement to an already effective nutrition strategy. I hesitate to use the word diet because it makes people think of a temporary approach. Your diet is what you eat. So if you or your nutrition strategy, your approach is your diet. Now, to add to that, to supplement that, protein powders can be good, they can be bad. Very often in nutrition, the answer is it depends. Did you buy it from the gas station and it's full of sugar? Did you order it online from a lab that cares about how they filter it and it has no sugar? Protein powders can be a very good supplement. You can also buy junky ones. So you have to be careful on the quality and don't just rely on that. Use food first.
I did hear that as we age, our body is not as efficient at pulling the protein and utilizing the protein from food. So additional protein powder, or what you've been taking for years, if I can say this, you've been putting in your water in the morning, is that little essential amino acids. Why do you do that? Can we talk about those three options? Food, you said, which is best, but then why would you also then supplement with the powder and or the essential aminos?
Well, I was reading an interesting book. Perhaps you've heard of Peter Attia and the book Outlive. I think he puts it best in how he says at his age, which is around 50, it's just you can't choke down enough protein in the food form. So he will have 2 meals, 1 snack, and 1 shake, all based around adequate protein. So say he needs 160. You have 4 meals, each with 40 grams. You've got to just be deliberate and spread it out and have a strategy based on what you choose to eat to get it in. And he's like, I can't eat 8 chicken breasts a day. So I'll have 1 as a shake, a smoothie, whatever you want to call it. 1 is a protein-based snack, and 2 are regular meals that might include all the other methods.
Okay.
But to your question about why is it so important as we age, there's a number of factors. Things slow down when you age. Metabolism slows down. Everything is just not as efficient. If you think of a 50-year-old or 75-year-old car, it's not going to operate like a modern car. And so just think of your tubes and pipes, like your intestines, your large intestine, your stomach, your blood vessels. All of those structures in your body are not nearly as efficient when you get old. So your pipes are aging. Sorry to say, but your pipes are aging. So they're not going to absorb as efficiently. And your metabolism is also your metabolism also has what's called anabolic resistance. So I used the term protein synthesis early. Synthesis means to build. And so your body just isn't as efficient at building things when you're 75 versus 25. So you're fighting rusting pipes, a slower system, and you have a harder time controlling your appetite and blood sugar when you're older. And so you tend to have cravings for sugar, which will bump out the protein.
So in response to that, the best thing to do is reduce the amount of sugar you're eating, if you haven't already, and bump up the protein. So your body has...
to, number 1, understand it is important. Number 2, be systematic about your approach to food. I call it your nutrition strategy. You have to have a strategy. You need a plan, especially if as you age or if you're an athlete trying to perform. You need a plan. And every day is not going to be the same. So you need a couple different plans ultimately. So are you systematic? Do you have a plan? Do you understand how to store protein? The concept of the biological value. That a scoop of Jif is not the same as a whey shake. You know, a bowl of vegetables is not the same as a bunch of cubed up chicken. It just isn't. So do you understand the density, the source, the biological value of the protein?
With your clients, do you push more towards chicken or red meat, or which type of meats do you usually suggest for them?
The first thing I say is source your meat well. So if it is a well-raised animal, that's the best advice first. Then it becomes what I call palatal preferences. So if you don't like red meat, well, skip it then. If you hate poultry, don't force yourself to eat it. There are, of course, nuances and details around red meat versus poultry versus that. But the other parts are more important. Is it a well-sourced piece of meat? Does it fit your palatal preference? And after that, it becomes details. So, for example, red meat does have something in it called arachidonic acid, and some people can react poorly to that. It causes inflammation, it causes joint pain. If you have gout or something like that, the urea that's produced, it just may not fit everyone's diet. So again, it depends. First, source it well. Second, make sure you like it. Third, we'll get into details. Definitely supplement your protein. The older you get and the better and more honed you get with your nutrition strategy. Supplementing protein is just a thing. It's just going to be part of your normal life. I do like essential amino acid supplements. It's really just a little 5-gram scoop once a day or twice a day that kind of makes up for deficiencies you might have. And then a shake a day, especially if you're active, often becomes part of a person's normal routine. And those are some very successful possibilities or ways to get it in.
Do you have any brands that you think are very high quality, both plant-based and whey-based, that you're like, yep, there's no sugar, I vetted it all out, I recommend it to my clients?
There are a number of good brands. There's far more poor sources, but it's more important, I think, to look at what you're looking for. So is it whey concentrate, whey isolate? Those are both good. Does it have added colors, added sugar? Of course, the less added, the better.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so if you could give our listeners one small change, like a pivot that they could make in their lives in relation to what we discussed today, what would it be?
I would say your meal one will set the tone for the day. I hesitate to call it breakfast because it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. So you wake up, how do you start your day? Is it coffee and crappy carbs, or is it hydration and meal one is based around good protein? That would be a fork in the road that changes a lot of people's lives. Don't grab a coffee and a Pop-Tart. Start with a glass of water and a protein-based breakfast.
The Gilmore Girls will be very disappointed in that no coffee and Pop-Tart to start the day.
Such a Stacy thing to say.
For any fans out there,
I love Gilmore Girls, but you're right. They're like big into their muffins and their coffee.
No, Pop-Tarts.
We have two grown girls, 26 and 24, and they went through. I live on goldfish and fruit snacks, and we didn't forbid it. We didn't chastise them. We just hoped they'd outgrow it by setting a good example, and they did. So you let them have it, and you say, okay, you can have fun kid food, but here's how we choose to eat, and here's what we provide, and here's how I start my day. And eventually they see it, and they will do what you do instead of do what you say.
And we went through that, something similar too. I have 4 boys. Now they're big boys, but and my background is in nutrition as well. So my kids would come home from a friend's house and they'd be like, how come we can't have the real Ritz crackers, Mom? How come we have to have the ones from Whole Foods or Trader Joe's? And I'm like, yeah, that's because of all the hydrogenated oils. But then once they can drive, they can go buy whatever they want.
Well, really with kids, you're really just teaching them habits. You're teaching them a general approach because they are going to be an individual, obviously. And so did you give them a good foundation on which to build, really?
Well, then they go to college and it all goes out the window.
Probably for a little bit.
They call that in psychology your individuation. Right?
Individuating.
That's where it's a semi-safe environment to explore all those things.
100%.
It's very...
They come back to it. They come back to the good, healthy eating. It just is like a cycle where you just have to watch and be quiet.
What example did you set? Yeah.
Okay, one more question for you. On the Digestible podcast, we like to say, don't panic, just pivot. Would you be willing to share a small change you've made in your life that's made a big difference?
Yeah, I think it ties back to when you asked me one small piece of advice for your listening audience. The pivot that I made was probably my morning routine is so unconscious that I don't skip it. Whether I have to wake up at 4 in the morning to catch an airplane or I get to sleep till 8 like I did today on Sunday, I go into the kitchen and I do not have to think about what my morning routine is, with my hydration first, empty stomach supplements next, essential amino acids next, and then when I get hungry, a protein-based breakfast. Like, that is just mindless for me. And I'm already to meal 2, what most people call lunch, and my day has started well. So when I had my morning routine down to being unconscious, it changed my days.
I love that.
I do too. It's a good one.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I do feel better in my mornings that I'm organized enough to start with my hydration and my powders and my supplements and a good solid breakfast and a lunch that's packed for work. It makes for a better day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you're like, I got all these things done and it's not even whatever o'clock, it also
absolutely.
feels good. Like
And
I
it
had
helps.
nothing else the rest of the day. I had this great breakfast, and I put supplements in my body, and I had the hydration, and I did the things. I mean, that's how I approach it. So I
Yeah, it
think
sets your
that's
day off in a very positive momentum. Everything from you physiologically feel good to psychologically you feel in control and organized and like it's going to be good.
great.
And ultimately in everything, fitness, nutrition, all of it, what do people really want? It isn't six-pack abs and to have the sexiest arms. It's really to feel good.
Feel
You
good.
just want to consistently rely on, you're going to feel good.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is fundamental.
But maybe we want to feel good with six-pack abs and beautiful arms.
I wouldn't be able to do without believing that too, but
Yeah.
for most people, it's do you simply feel good? Did you get good rest? Are you managing your stress? Do you have a strategy to your nutrition? And do you move? That's it.
Do you move? Yeah. Thanks for coming on today, Andrew.
Thank
This
you
has been
so
great.
much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Digestible Podcast with today's guest, Andrew Phelka, sports nutrition specialist. I don't know about you, but I do not want a brain of Twinkies and hot dogs. If you like today's episode, please share us with others. It's the best compliment you can give us. You can also send us questions or comments to info@digestiblestrategies.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And remember, don't panic, just pivot. The content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not medical professionals, and the views expressed here are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any health conditions. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making any health-related decisions.